November 3rd, 2025. 99 cents or, well, back down to under 64 cents. That is where Cardano is projected to go. Now, you might be saying, well, that's really not a move. What is that? That's like a 13-cent move. We want dollar moves, $2 moves. Well, I'm sorry, this chart's telling you. Cardano's in a symmetrical triangle on the daily, and this thing is going to break. We did subvert a potential crisis. Let's talk about that. That was pretty good. So you had this kind of this M pattern here that should have came into a bear flag break to the downside, but we completely blew through that 50. That bear flag was invalidated, and now actually it looks like we are breaking out of a bull flag inside of a larger symmetrical triangle, and that measured move. Now again, measured moves don't really matter in a raging bull market or in a raging bear market. So if we start getting into the parabolic phase of the bull market, which we haven't really seen yet outside of a few select altcoins, these 99-cent targets could go completely out the window, and downside targets, you just keep moving them up from 64 cents up to 80 cents and then $1 and then $1.20. So this could all very well be invalidated. The other thing I like to note as well is Cardano is also coming into potentially a inverse head and shoulders pattern within, again, the symmetrical triangle. So the mini patterns inside the larger patterns are telling us the break is going to be to the upside. And again, that initial measured move is $1. Now, when we talk about after $1, what are some price levels? What are some predictions? We'll get into that here in a second. First, I want to share a couple of updates. Number one, big month for Cardano. Also, big month for any proof of stake cryptocurrency that is looking to get an ETF, as the staking was approved and went live on the Ethereum ETF. So interesting to see what kind of flows Ethereum will start seeing. And then once Cardano gets its ETF, assuming staking is going to be enabled, with it being liquid staking, and well, you don't really have to get a derivative, right? A liquid staking token like you get staked ETH. It's just the native Cardano. And so will that be lucrative and kind of pleasing for the institutions that want to get in and say, look, we got Cardano, we got ETH, one's at 500 billion, one's at like 70 billion or 30 billion. I'm projecting here, by the way, in the future. One is we got to get a derivative form of the token. The other one is just liquid. We can just pull it out whenever we want. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. I'm not swinging one way or the other, but very interesting. So the final deadline is 17 days away. October is the month of ETF approvals. We don't think there are any of them going to get denied, but the approvals, the final deadlines, as you can see, Litecoins, obviously that already came and went. Solana's is on the 10th, followed by XRP, Doge, and then Cardano on the 23rd. This is a grayscale product, and we're expecting it to go live and be approved. So interesting to see what kind of inflows we're going to get. Could the timing be perfect? Bitcoin DeFi, the ETF, maybe retail starts jumping in. There were talks at Token 2049. It was, by the way, it was really nice to hear Fred from Cardano Foundation kind of extending olive branch saying, hey, we listened to Charles' speech. It was great. They talked about a meeting with a tier 1 stablecoin and how that's coming. Please. So seems like things are brewing underneath the Cardano hood here. And so those of you that have been patiently holding on to your bags, you might see a scenario in the next few short weeks where you will be handsomely rewarded or beautifully rewarded. This is Charles in Singapore, sitting down with Ran from Crypto Banter, talking about how Cardano missed out on DeFi, but Bitcoin DeFi is a big one. Take a listen.
The challenge for Cardano was that while we did a great job of building a decentralized ecosystem that has on-chain governance, we misstepped on the DeFi side. And everybody looks, oh, the DeFi numbers don't look so good, therefore Cardano's overvalued. It's like, well, the DeFi numbers look terrible in Bitcoin, and it's a $2 trillion ecosystem. Bitcoin DeFi, I think, is the biggest play.
One point of contention here, and you know, I love Charles, and I've met him a few times, and I've interviewed him. I don't think you can compare and say, well, Bitcoin has no DeFi and it's 2 trillion. Well, Bitcoin, I think, serves a different purpose. When people look at Cardano, they compare it to a Solana, to an Ethereum smart contract functionality. It's a ledger, well, not a ledger layer, but it's essentially a layer where people can do things, dApps build and trading and NFTs. Bitcoin's not really known for that. People don't buy Bitcoin because it's like DeFi. They buy Bitcoin as a store of value, as a hedge against inflation. On the other hand, people are building on Cardano because, well, you can do that on Cardano. You can't really do that on Bitcoin. So I don't like that comparison. But let's continue listening and hear what he has to say about Bitcoin DeFi.
You know, people undervalue how massive Bitcoin DeFi is. It's a $2 trillion blockchain. So we actually have a huge native advantage for Bitcoin DeFi because we're UTXO, Bitcoin's UTXO. You actually can write Cardano smart contracts and they compile and run on Bitcoin. So there's interoperability between those two sides. So while we didn't really sit in for the cycle for the EVM world and those guys, I think that's one way we can get back in.
So still hope for the Bitcoin DeFi narrative and, well, what kind of market share will Cardano grab within that ecosystem? You know, there's a bunch of different projects that are looking to grab that Bitcoin DeFi total value. And so I'm curious, I'm interested. Midnight tokens coming out soon. I know the airdrop I was able to claim, by the way, via Trezor. Tangent not available, Ledger's available, Trezor's available for majority of the blockchains. It's a little complicated, but I used the FAQ page on midnight.gd. So if you're having some issues and trouble, I'd recommend going to that website. You'll find all the tutorials and what's available and what you can and cannot claim. Okay, back to the Cardano chart here. I do want to zoom into the 4-hour time frame. Let's take a peek at what the 4-hour is telling us. Perhaps see if we can spot any bullish divergence here on the Cardano 4-hour. Let's bring up our RSI, and we're looking for higher lows on RSI, which we are not getting. So that is invalidated. So one of the first things I like to look at on a chart is, hey, do we have any bullish or bearish divergence? Taking a look at Market Cipher B on the 4-hour, this looks fairly strong. We're getting big bids, right? So as the, one thing to note here, as the momentum waves make a higher low, just barely, we're getting green dots and we're getting money flow, getting a higher high as the momentum indicators, right? The momentum waves are getting lower, or excuse me, lower lows. It's kind of early in the morning. It was a long weekend. So what does this mean? That means the momentum of the bears is pushing the price down, but the money flow continues to grow. So there's a little bit of divergence there, and the momentum indicators look great, you guys, both the RSI and the Stokes. And then interesting to see how high this momentum wave can go. We saw the height here at 77. This is back in the beginning of the month. And Cardano at that point was tapping the top end of that range. And it's really just been kind of consolidating ever since. Little bit of an ugly, wobbly W pattern here. So coming into a potential bull flag on the 4-hour, looking to tap that 85.73 cent support level. And then, guys, we got to breach. I mean, 88 cents is the level. If we, again, zoom out on the daily, this is where we need to break 88.9, call it 89 cents. Ideally, to confirm this move, you want to see something like this, a breakout with increased volume, maybe spend a day or two chopping, and then we're off to the races. Again, I said ideally. It doesn't always play out like that, but hey, one can only wish. So my prediction is Cardano breaks up. There's, as mentioned earlier in the video, there's a few mini patterns within the larger symmetrical triangle pattern, the inverse head and shoulders, and the potential bull flag that tell us, hey, this thing is on the side of the bulls. Now, the question is going to be, once it breaks out, are we going to get stopped out at that dollar, at that $1.12, and then finally at current cycle highs, which if I zoom out was $1.32. Time will tell, but we know if history repeats itself, when Cardano gets moving, there's very few. There's a short list of altcoins that can keep up with Cardano's momentum. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to watch all of our other Cardano content. There's a playlist curated for you. And come check out our live show Monday through Friday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Till the next one. Peace.